A very good morning, everyone. Your Excellency U Tien Sen, President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, Your Excellency Mr. Xanana Gusmao, Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, Your Excellency Mr. Gordon Darcy Lilo, Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, Your Excellency Mr. Suraswati, Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand, Your Excellency Dr. Thong Lun, Deputy Prime Minister of the Lao PDR and Chair of the Group of the Landlocked Developing Countries, Your Excellency Mr. Amunu Gama, and who is the acting chair of the 68th session of the Commission and Senior Minister for the International Monetary Cooperation, and my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Jan Eliasson, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, honorable ministers, United Nations Under-Secretary Generals and Executive Secretaries of the United Nations Regional Commissions, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. In my first speech to the 2008 Commission session as your Executive Secretary, I said that ESCAP is only as strong and effective as our member states decide that it should be. Standing here today, 5 years later, I'm proud to see that we have never been stronger. Today, we are honored for the first time in the history of the Commission by the participation of more than 40 very senior leaders from our region, heads of states and government, vice presidents, deputy prime ministers, ministers, deputy ministers, and former ministers, as well as by the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and my dear fellow friends, the Under-Secretary Generals and the Executive Secretaries of the other United Nations commissions. It is my great joy, therefore, to welcome so many leaders, senior policy makers, opinion shapers, and friends to Bangkok, to ESCAP, and to this landmark 69th session of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. My very special welcome and thanks goes to His Excellency U Tien Sen, President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, His Excellency Mr. Xanana Gusmao, Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, and His Excellency Mr. Gordon Darcy Lilo, Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, for being with us here today as we discuss Asia's Pacific next historic transformation. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, rising Asia was once a very different place. Poverty and violence devastated large part of our region, and the world was pessimistic about our prospects. In 1968, the Swedish economist Gunnar Myrdal published his book, The Nobel Prize Winner, and in the Asian drama, which predicted a future for Asia of poverty and deprivation, but which concluded, and I quote him, that the drama is still unfolding and history is within the power of man, and I added women, to shape. How right he was. The region has transformed itself in pursuit of rapid economic growth and social development, which has affected more than 60% of the world's population and has made a real difference to people's lives. Just 4 decades later, despite the global financial crisis, Asia stands firm as the engine not only of regional, but indeed global economic recovery, has created an expanding middle class, and has succeeded in eliminating half of the world's absolute poverty. The Asian development drama has turned potential tragedy into inspirational progress because our leaders decided to meet together, hold together, and to advance together, in the words of Prime Minister Nehru when he was the first Prime Minister of India. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Asia-Pacific continued rise is, however, no means preordained. The path ahead is not without difficulties, and doing more of the same will not advance our shared development journey to the future we want. Success will require a different pattern of growth, cooperation, and partnership to address the multiple risks and challenges that we currently face. And let me list some of these. Increasing inequality between and within our countries, which could undermine social cohesion and stability. Intense competition for natural resources. Climate change, which affects weather patterns, threatening agricultural production, our oceans, and our economies. Weak governance and institutions, as well as daunting poverty, and lack of human security as a result of criminal, communal, ethnic, religious, and gender-based violence. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the next act of the Asia-Pacific drama cannot follow the same script. It has to prepare for another great transformation to sustain its dynamism. Our region is rethinking and reinvesting in itself by addressing these serious interlinked challenges and seizing emerging opportunities and synergies, turning stumbling blocks where possible into new building blocks. We are looking for new drivers of growth, struggling to close infrastructure and development gaps, address jobless growth and unemployment, especially among our youth, and build stronger, more accountable institutions. We are also striving to make our cities safer and more sustainable, and to rebalance our economies towards better quality, inclusive growth, without forgetting our oceans, our agriculture, and our rural areas. The countries of Asia and the Pacific are seeking to improve energy and water efficiency, as well as natural resource governance. They're also spending more on health, education, and social protection to achieve the Millennium Development Goals by 2015. This is no longer the same development journey. We are taking another leap. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, this transformational change towards inclusive and sustainable development will not prove easy. Great transitions demand even greater collective leadership. That is why we're here today, as leaders of Asia and the Pacific, to discuss, to decide, and to assume a more active role in the stewardship of our region, our people, and our planet. Our success depends on enlightened policy choices, deeper regional cooperation, global partnerships, strong institutions, democratic governance, and the rule of law to address existing challenges and shared vulnerabilities. In this next phase, we need to maximize opportunities to shape a more resilient Asia-Pacific, rooted in shared prosperity, social equity, and sustainability, empowered by the creativity of our people and valuing the gifts of the earth. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ESCAP is already assisting our member states to advance this critical agenda by providing research and analysis, policy options, technical assistance, and innovative solutions to improve the lives of our people. This is why inclusive and sustainable development has driven our annual Commission sessions and its resolutions since 2008, from energy and sustainable agriculture to financing for an inclusive and green future, from gender equality, social protection, disability and aging, to regional economic integration, enhancing our statistical capacity. And this year, building resilience to multiple shocks and supporting the development needs of the Pacific Islands, least developed and landlocked developing countries. In our consultations on the post-2015 development agenda, it has become clear that our region is seeking a new social contract between states and their people and between states and the market. This social contract has to promote people's engagement, translating growth into productive employment for all. It has to adopt policies for the fairer distribution of wealth, economic assets, and opportunities, where there is better resource management and better financial governance, including at the global level. greater accountability of both the public and private sectors, and providing human security and quality services so that all people can live in dignity and freedom from want, from fear, and from discrimination. The 69th Commission session will discuss many of these critical issues in our different panels over the last 3 days to hear your views, experiences, and recommendations. Success in these areas call for a new model of development to be based on structural changes for equality, inclusiveness, resilience, and sustainable development as a more integrated whole as we shape the post-2015 development agenda. The means of implementation should address how to mobilize and harness partnerships for global public goods, including fair trade and a stable international financial system that serves the needs of the real economy. It is time to reset our thinking, create new policy frameworks and institutions, as well as global partnerships to build the future we want together. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, in conclusion, I want to thank you for your unwavering support for ESCAP and for helping the Commission to live up to the potential first identified by the regional leaders more than 6 decades ago. Your appreciation for and advocacy on behalf of ESCAP, both within the region and in global forums, is what ensures that even in this time of deepening austerity, the Commission has never been stronger, more relevant, or more important to the life of people in Asia and the Pacific. We are here as the community of the United Nations. Nations united in common purpose, committed to the values of the United Nations. We must continue to be guided by the principles enshrined in the Charter and by our shared responsibility to the people of our region, to our common humanity, and to generations still to come. I thank you.